So today we're going to do our season predictions for Formula One. We let the first race go this season just so we could see how the teams would get on, because obviously there was only 1 week of testing this time round,
3 days.
which means today we'll give you our top three in the drivers, constructors. We'll give someone that we feel may be able to break into the top three. We'll go with the quickest pit stop for the season and the driver who we feel will have the most wins this season. So, Xavier, who do
Yes.
you feel will finish in the top three this year in the Formula One?
Verstappen, Perez, and Alonso.
And in which order is that going to be? So, who's your number one? Who's your number two?
Verstappen.
And number three?
Verstappen's number one.
So, you got Max,
Alonso number two,
Alonso,
and Checo three.
and you think Perez is going to be number three?
Yeah.
Right. So, for me, like yourself, I've gone with Max Verstappen being number one. I do feel he will win the championship again this year and become a three-time world champion.
I'm like
Then,
4 or 5 away from Lewis.
unlike you, I feel Perez will come second this year. I feel he'll have a better season. He may even at times cause more of a disruption to Max's winning ways, which will offer more.
Like last season.
Yeah, but he didn't win that much races last season and wasn't that much of a challenger, if we're being honest.
It was mainly Christian and his engineer telling him to give the position to Max if Max was behind him because Max was faster.
But unlike you, I feel Charles Leclerc will be number three. I do think he will still finish in the top three. He may not have finished the first race, but I do feel this season he still will be in the top three. He's shown he's good enough to challenge for the title. Whether he can win it or not,
As we learned from 2021 and last year's season.
yeah, but last season you'd have to blame Ferrari for poor strategies.
Yes. Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. And then they had to go into Plan D.
That's not always helpful, but you live and you learn. I think he would have learned a lot from last season with some of the strategies and the fact that they've made changes at the top. Hopefully for him, it may be a bit better. So outside of that, who would be your dark horse? And by that, I mean, who is the driver you feel won't necessarily win the title, but they have a chance to mix it in and possibly finish in your top three?
I think it's going to be George.
It's not a bad shout, George Russell. He showed to be quite a good competitor last season. He was disruptive. He won races, and yeah, I'm not surprised you went with that. Yes, but it's not a bad shout. For my dark horse, I've gone for Alonso. I feel after last weekend, he showed a very that he's still got the determination, he's still got the will to drive, he's still got a hunger in him, and he was able to bring something out. He was able to unlock the beast in that car, and I feel with his championship pedigree, he will offer a lot more. And with the better car this year, I do feel he could disrupt the top three. I'm not saying he's gonna win it, but I do feel if anyone was gonna disrupt it and possibly push or force their way in, it definitely would be Alonso. I do expect him to be challenging for his victories this season, and I definitely feel we will see some great racing out of him with that car. So if you had to pick your three constructors in order, Who would you have in your top three?
Red Bull,
And where will you have them?
Aston first, Aston Martin second, and Mercedes third.
You're showing a lot of faith in Aston Martin this year, ain't you? Why's that?
Because their cars are a lot better.
So you really think Aston Martin's got enough about them to push their way into the top three?
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. So my top three would be Red Bull, followed by Mercedes. I do feel Mercedes will be in the top three. And then I think Ferrari will finish third in that, a bit like last year. I think there will be struggles this season. I can't see their races finishing, both drivers finishing races all the time this year. I think they'll have a better season overall than they did last year, but I do think issues will come back to haunt them, and they will just about finish in the top three. So just to confirm, who was your top three? Red Bull,
Aston Martin,
Aston Martin,
and Mercedes.
followed by Mercedes. And who would your dark horse be for constructors?
Alfa Romeo.
That is wild. It's definitely different. Surprising with that choice. Very surprising. I wouldn't have picked them myself because I, I I think they will struggle this year. Whereas my dark horse will be Aston Martin. I feel Alonso will pick up the points enough because I think, like I say, I think he'll be challenging for race wins. The only issue with them as a team is I think Lance Stroll will struggle.
Especially after being knocked off the bike.
Yeah, but he was able to recover to race last weekend, so I don't think that's bothered him too much. But I do feel he is the weak link in the team, and I feel he'll be the one to actually cost them major points because he does like to be involved in situations, whether it be incidences, contact, which then jeopardizes races. So hopefully, if he can have a good season and be clean and finish races, I do think Aston Martin have the ability to break into the top three. I do feel they'll finish fourth, but I do think they could muscle their way in. And if they did, I think it would be at the expense of Ferrari. Because I think even though Mercedes have the issues with their car and they plan on working on them through the season, I do think with Lewis's know-how and George's ability to grind out good results, I do feel Mercedes will definitely finish in. So I think if Aston Martin do break in, it will be at the cost of Ferrari. Now, as we move on, which team do you feel will have the quickest pit stop this season? It was Red Bull last year. I think McLaren may already have it for the first race, but which team do you feel will finish with the fastest pit stop?
One miraculous team I think is Haas.
Do you think Haas will finish with the quickest pit stop?
Yes. It sounds
What?
crazy.
Crazy is a good word. I'm glad you used it. Surprising. That is very surprising. Now, whilst I have it between Red Bull and McLaren, I do think Red Bull will just snatch it, and it might be by like a tenth of a second, but I do feel they will pinch it. Bless you. And I do feel Red Bull will snatch the fastest pit stop of the year. And then finally, Who do you feel will have the most race victories this year?
That is a very simple question.
But I feel I know your answer, but they don't know the answer. So what is your answer?
Max Verstappen.
You think Max Verstappen? I too think Max Verstappen. Now, if we're gonna give it a number, how many race victories do you think he'll have?
How many tracks are there?
I believe 23. He's already won one. So that gives 22 more races. So what do you feel will be the amount of race wins?
I mean, he might win all of them, but I think he might win 20.
That's crazy. You're young. I'll let you get that one off. I don't see him winning 20 races. If I was to guess, I'm going to go at a solid 13 race wins. He has the record for most wins in a season, but 20, that's crazy talk. That's crazy. But it's your prediction. If he wins 20 races, we have it on camera. I'll give you £100. We can shake on that too. £100 if Max wins 20 races this season. Sprint races don't count. So
Yeah,
20
no.
race victories and £100 is yours. Cool. Crazy bet, but I'm gonna take it. So with that being said, we'll come back towards at the end of the season and we'll see what we got right and what we got wrong. And in terms of this bet, for your sake, I hope you're right because it's money in your pocket. But for me, I think it's safe. I'm keeping £100. Um, let us know in the
Bye.
comments what you feel will be the top three and who you feel has the ability to force their way into your top three.